You've been taught that confidence is loud, that it explains itself, proves itself, and reacts instantly to everything around it. But if you look closely at the men who truly hold power, you'll notice something unsettling. They rarely do any of that. They don't rush to answer, they don't chase attention, and they never reveal how much they want something. Because the moment your desire becomes visible, it becomes something others can measure, manipulate, and use against you. There is another kind of presence most people overlook. Quieter, colder, more controlled. A man who feels everything but reveals almost nothing. While others talk, he observes. While others react, he waits. And in that waiting, something shifts. People begin to project a guess, to expose themselves without realizing it. That silence isn't empty, it's pressure, it's control without effort. And this is where most people misunderstand the game. They think this is apathy, detachment, a lack of care. It's not. It's discipline. It's the ability to experience emotion without surrendering to it, to stay composed while others lose control. In a world addicted to reaction, the man who refuses to be moved becomes impossible to predict, and what cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. In this video, I will show you how to build that kind of presence, how to restrain your reactions, conceal your intent, and turn silence into a form of psychological dominance. If you're ready to stop being readable and start becoming untouchable, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because what comes next will change how you see confidence forever. Now let's break down the true power hidden inside silence. Why do you feel the urge to react so quickly? Why does silence make you uncomfortable? Because deep down you've been conditioned to believe that if you don't respond, you lose. But that instinct is exactly what keeps you weak. Most people don't react because the situation demands it. They react because their internal state is unstable. Their identity depends on being seen, understood, validated. So when something threatens that image, a comment, a tone, a look, they rush to correct it. Not strategically, but emotionally. This is not confidence, it's exposure. The man who has mastered himself operates differently. He doesn't rush because he has already processed the outcome. He understands what matters and what doesn't before the moment even escalates. There is no internal chaos pushing him to act, and because his inner world is stable, his outer behavior becomes still. That stillness is what people misread as indifference, but it's actually control. Here's the shift: most never make power is not about what you feel, it's about what you allow others to see. The moment you reveal urgency, you hand over leverage. The moment you show that something affects you deeply, you give others a map to your pressure points. But when there's no visible reaction, no signal, people are forced into uncertainty. And uncertainty shifts the frame. Watch how this plays out in real life. Someone challenges you publicly. The average man leans forward, explains, defends, tries to regain control with words. He thinks he's protecting his image, but what he's actually doing is confirming that his image is fragile. Now compare that to the disciplined response. He pauses. He looks. Maybe he says nothing. Maybe he gives a short, neutral answer. No emotion, no urgency. The room doesn't focus on the accusation anymore. It focuses on him, because he didn't flinch. That's the mechanism. People don't just listen to what is said. They measure how you react. And the one who remains composed becomes the reference point. Others start adjusting to your emotional level, not the other way around. This is why nonchalance is not arrogance. It's clarity. It's the result of knowing exactly what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You're not suppressing emotion, you're selecting expression. And the moment you stop reacting by default, you stop being predictable. And what cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. Now let's go deeper. Why do people trust noise more than stillness? Because noise feels like effort. It looks like action. It gives the illusion of control. But in reality, it's often the opposite. The more someone talks, explains, reacts, the more they reveal how much they need to be seen. That's the hidden mechanism. Most behavior is not driven by intention, but by insecurity. People adjust their tone depending on who's watching. They laugh louder when they feel ignored. They over-explain when they feel judged. They perform confidence instead of holding it. And every one of those micro-reactions leaks information. It tells you exactly where they are weak. But you don't play that game. The moment you stop checking how you're perceived, something shifts. Your posture changes. Your tone stabilizes. Your presence becomes consistent. Not because you're trying to impress, but because you've already decided who you are. And that decision removes the need to constantly prove it. This is where perception flips. People don't respect effort. They respect certainty. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't ask for approval. Because when you appear unaffected, others begin to question themselves. They wonder if they misread you. They second-guess their own behavior. And in that moment, control moves from them to you. Look at a simple interaction. Someone tries to impress the room. They talk fast, they fill every silence, they add extra details to sound important. That's the old pattern. Now compare it to the disciplined version. You speak only when necessary. You leave gaps. You don't rush to fill silence. And suddenly your words carry more weight, not because they are better, but because they are rare. Silence creates contrast, and contrast creates attention. This is why nonchalance unsettles people. It exposes the difference between those who are performing and those who are grounded. When you're not trying to prove anything, you become difficult to read. And when you become difficult to read, people start projecting meaning onto you. They assume depth, they assume control, they assume power. And here's the truth. Most never realize perception becomes reality. If people believe you are composed, they treat you as composed. If they believe you are unaffected, they stop testing you the same way. Not because you forced them, but because you framed yourself differently. That's the real game. Not controlling others directly, but controlling what they think they see. So when someone challenges you, you don't rush to defend. When someone watches you, you don't adjust. When attention comes, you don't chase it. You hold your frame, because the man who is always adjusting is always reacting. And the man who is always reacting is never in control. Now understand this. The real power of silence is not just in how you appear, it's in what it allows you to see. Why do you feel the need to fill every silence? Why does waiting feel like losing? Because you've been trained to confuse movement with progress and urgency with power. But the truth is far colder than that. Most people act fast, not because the moment requires it, but because they cannot tolerate uncertainty. Silence creates pressure. Waiting creates doubt. And the average man rushes to escape that discomfort. He speaks too soon, reacts too early, commits before he understands, not strategically but emotionally. And in doing so, he gives away the only thing that matters, timing. This is the hidden mechanism behind restraint. The man who can wait sees more. While others rush to respond, you observe. While they try to control the moment, you study it. And in that space, something critical happens. They begin to reveal themselves. Their tone shifts. Their intentions leak. Their patience breaks. And without saying a word, you gain information. And in power dynamics, information is everything. Here's where the frame flips. Most people think silence is passive. But real silence is active. It's a deliberate refusal to engage too early. It's choosing not to react until the full picture is clear. Because once you react, you are no longer observing, you are participating. And participation limits perspective. Watch how this plays out. Someone provokes you, trying to pull you into a reaction. The average response is immediate defend, explain, pushback. It feels like control, but it's not. It's compliance. You are entering their frame, playing their timing, feeding their momentum. Now compare that to restraint. You pause. You don't match their energy. You don't give them the reaction they expected. Suddenly the dynamic shifts. They start talking more, justifying more, overextending, and without effort, they lose control of the interaction. That's the leverage of stillness. Every time you delay your response, you force the other person to move first, and the one who moves first exposes first. This is why disciplined silence feels uncomfortable at first, because you're not used to holding that tension. You're used to releasing it immediately. But power is built in that exact space, the moment you choose not to react. This is also why urgency is dangerous. The man who acts out of urgency is predictable. He can be rushed, pressured, manipulated. But the man who moves slowly, who takes his time, who refuses to be pulled into speed, becomes difficult to control. Because he operates on his own clock, and time is power. You don't rush to respond to messages. You don't jump at every opportunity. You don't chase every conversation. Not because you don't care, but because you understand that constant movement dilutes presence. The more available you are, the less valuable you appear. The more you speak, the less weight your words carry. Restraint is not about doing nothing, it's about doing only what matters when it matters. And once you master that, something changes. You stop reacting to the moment and start controlling it. Why does silence make other people uneasy? Why do they rush to fill it, justify themselves, explain more than they should? Because silence removes structure. It strips away the script people rely on to feel in control. And without that script, they expose themselves. Most people don't communicate to express truth. They communicate to manage perception. They explain to avoid judgment. They add details to sound credible. They defend to protect identity. And when you remove your reactions, when you stop feeding that rhythm, they lose their reference point. They don't know how to read you, so they start revealing more in an attempt to regain control. That's the mechanism. Silence creates a vacuum and people instinctively rush to fill it. Not because they have something important to say, but because they can't tolerate not knowing where they stand. This is where power shifts again. You're no longer reacting to what they say. You're watching why they say it. The tone, the pace, the unnecessary details, all of it becomes data. And while they think they're leading the interaction, they're actually exposing their position. Now, understand the frame. The one who explains more holds less power, because explanation is often a response to pressure. And the moment you respond to pressure, you acknowledge it. You validate it. You accept the frame it was built on. Watch a simple example. Someone questions your decision. The average response is immediate justification. Let me explain why I did this. That feels reasonable. But beneath it is a subtle admission you are accepting their authority to question you. Now compare that to a controlled response. You pause. You give a short answer. Or none at all. You don't over-expand. You don't rush to clarify. The pressure doesn't move you. It stays with them. And now they have to decide what to do with it. That's the inversion. Silence doesn't just protect you. It redirects weight. And this is why people misinterpret it. They call it cold, distant, arrogant. But that reaction reveals more about them than you. Because what they're really reacting to is the loss of control. They expected access to your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. And when that access is denied, they feel it as tension. But you don't break that tension. Because you understand something they don't. You are not responsible for making others comfortable. You are responsible for maintaining your frame. And once you accept that, you stop over-explaining. You stop correcting every misunderstanding. You stop trying to control how people perceive you in real time, because the more you chase perception, the more you lose control of it. Instead, you let people interpret. You let them guess. You let them project. And in that projection, they reveal their own mindset, their own insecurities, their own intentions. You say less, they show more, and slowly, without force, without noise, you begin to see everything clearly. Now here's where it becomes dangerous, because once you see clearly, you start choosing differently. Why do people chase what ignores them and lose interest in what chases them? Because attention is not just communication, it's currency. And most people spend it carelessly. The hidden mechanism is simple. The more you signal need, the more you lower your perceived value, not because you are less, but because you appear dependent. And dependence invites control. The moment someone senses that you need their response, their approval, their presence, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer choosing. You are waiting. But the man who is nonchalant breaks that pattern completely. He does not rush toward attention. He does not chase closure, validation, or constant reassurance. And because he doesn't move toward it, others begin to move toward him. This is the inversion most people never understand. Attraction, respect, even influence often grow in the space you leave behind. When you don't pursue, you create tension. When you don't explain, you create curiosity. When you don't react, you create uncertainty. And uncertainty pulls people in. Look at how this plays out. You send a message and don't get an immediate reply. The average response, double text. Add more words. Clarify tone. Try to regain control of the situation. But what does that signal? It signals that you're affected, that you're waiting, that you need resolution. Now compare that to the disciplined response. You send it and you leave it. No follow-up, no adjustment. Your attention moves elsewhere. And suddenly the dynamic changes. They feel the gap. They notice the absence. And often they come back. Not because you forced it, but because you didn't. This is the paradox of restraint. The less you try to control the outcome, the more control you gain over the interaction, because you are no longer anchored to it. You are not pulled by every response, every delay, every shift in tone. You remain centered, and that center becomes your advantage. Now, take this deeper. In conversations, in relationships, in environments where people are constantly competing for attention, the one who withdraws slightly becomes visible. Not through noise, but through contrast. Everyone else is trying to be heard. You are choosing when to speak. Everyone else is trying to be liked. You are deciding who deserves your attention, and that decision creates gravity. But understand this clearly. Nonchalance is not avoidance. It's not pretending not to care. It's precision. You still care, but selectively. You invest attention where it has return. You engage when it matters, and you withdraw when it doesn't. No emotion wasted, no energy leaked. Because every time you chase something that doesn't move toward you, you lose position. And every time you remain still while others chase you, gain it. This is why the nonchalant man appears magnetic. Not because he is trying to attract, but because he is not trying at all. His attention is not available on demand. His presence is not constant. And that scarcity makes every interaction feel heavier. He does not give more to be valued. He gives less and becomes valuable. And once you understand that, you stop reaching and start choosing. Why do you feel the urge to explain yourself when misunderstood? Why does being seen incorrectly bother you so much? Because you've been conditioned to believe that clarity equals control, that if people just understood you, everything would fall into place. But in reality, constant explanation does the opposite. The hidden mechanism is this: every time you over-clarify, you lower your authority over the frame. You step into defense mode. You signal that your position depends on their agreement. And once your position depends on their agreement, you are no longer in control of it. The nonchalant man understands something deeper. He does not need to correct every perception. He does not rush to fix every misunderstanding. Because he knows that perception is not managed through words, it is shaped through consistency. What you repeatedly show over time will always outweigh what you say in a moment. This is where the real shift happens. You stop trying to win every interaction and start controlling your overall presence. Look at how most people handle misjudgment. Someone labels them incorrectly, questions their intent, misunderstands their actions. The instinct is immediate correction. "That's not what I meant. You're misunderstanding me." It feels necessary, but beneath it is fear, the fear of being seen the wrong way. Now compare that to disciplined control. You hear it, you register it, but you don't rush to fix it. You let it sit. Because you know that one moment does not define you unless you react as if it does. And that's the difference. Reaction locks you into the frame. Silence allows you to rise above it. This is not about being passive, it's about understanding where real influence comes from. It doesn't come from convincing people in real time. It comes from becoming so consistent, so composed, that their perception adjusts over time without you forcing it. And here's the deeper layer most never reach. You begin to detach from the need to be understood at all times, not because you don't value clarity, but because you understand timing. Some things are not meant to be explained immediately. Some things gain power through silence, through delay, through allowing others to sit with uncertainty. Because when people don't have immediate access to your thoughts, they begin to create their own narratives. And those narratives often elevate you far beyond anything you could have explained. That is the psychology of mystery, and it only exists when you stop overexposing yourself. So you choose your moments, you speak when it matters, you clarify when it serves you, but you do not explain by default. You do not defend your existence. You do not rush to make others comfortable at the cost of your position, because true confidence is not loud, not reactive, not desperate to be understood. It is controlled. It is selective. It is silent. And once you reach that point, something final happens. You stop being shaped by the world, and the world begins adjusting to you. This is the truth most people never reach. Power is not in what you say, it is in what you refuse to say. There will be moments after this where everything in you wants to react. Someone misunderstands you, you feel the urge to explain. Someone challenges you, you want to prove you're right. Someone pulls away, you want to chase and fix the perception, and you will feel it. That pressure, that tension, the instinct to move. But if you hold it, if you stay still for just a moment longer than usual, something shifts. They start talking more, revealing more, adjusting their tone, questioning themselves. The frame changes without you forcing it. That is the difference between reaction and control. You are no longer trying to be understood. You are deciding when understanding is earned. You are no longer driven by impulse. You are operating from discipline. Less noise, more clarity, less need, more certainty. This is not a tactic, it is an identity. If this changed how you see things, subscribe and stay close. And comment silent strength if you see it now. Because once you learn to stay still when others expect movement, you are no longer part of the game. You are the one it moves around.